Greetings, everybody. Alan K. Stout here on Music on the Menu, as I am every Sunday night from 9 to 10 o'clock, bringing you regional artists doing their own original material from northeastern Pennsylvania. Little bit of a different tone to the program tonight. This was a devastating week for music in northeastern Pennsylvania as we lost the iconic and the legendary George Wesley. George passed earlier this week. Funeral services were Friday night, a couple of nights ago. And we've decided here on the river and on the show to dedicate tonight's program to George. And we're going to be playing a whole lot of his music tonight. DC Taylor is here producing. DC, how are you tonight, man?
Good, Alan. Good to be here.
I'm glad you're here. You know, we talked about doing the show earlier in the week after George passed, and so we were able to put together a show of all of George's music. You know, it's strange, DC. I mean, last year George sat right in his chair.
Yeah.
Right where I'm sitting right now. He was our guest on the show for the whole hour. He performed at Breakers as part of Music on the Menu Live. He had done that series with me before when we were down at the Woodlands. You know, and I'll tell some of my own personal George stories throughout the program tonight, but really, to talk about him, he was just one of the most special people I've ever known. And you know, it's one of those things where if you have any, you know, to not have regrets, I think that I know, at least for me personally, I know a lot of other people were this way too. George, you let George know that while he was here. I mean, I remember I introduced him on stage once down at the Jazz Cafe. We did a John Lennon tribute, and I think I introduced him as the coolest human being I've ever met in my life. And and you know, when you were near him, you felt better. I don't know if it was his. I put this on Facebook this week. His spirituality, or his love for music, or his love for life. A combination of all of that. He was a very centered person. When you were around him, there was a calmness. You always felt better. And, you know, we will miss that, you know. And the music. I mean, for reggae music, I think he was one of the best reggae artists in the world. I really do. I mean, you know, what he did for 30 years, making records and making a living as a reggae artist. I mean, it's not the kind of music that's, you know, ever going to be selling 5 million records. It's not on the radio all the time, and you know, it's not like there's too many Bob Marleys that have come along in the last 50 years. But George Wesley was one of those guys that was known for that music, and I think did it as well as anybody has ever done it. And so we're going to play a lot of his music tonight. This was the title track from George's last record, going back to 2012, Old Lion.
On my way to Zion, I'm an old lion, and I still got my pride. Young lion, hear me roar. Cause I'm from the generation trod before. Bob Marley had the lion's roar. And when I heard it, for sure. Reggae music all around the world. Like a flag of freedom in the wind unfurled. Through trials and tribulations and every kind of situation, I receive my education and I get my inspiration from Rastafari, ever living, ever loving, guiding I and I. Forever, forever, in the lion roar, in the lion roar, in the lion on my way to Zion. I'm an old lion, and I still got my pride. so lost and so lonely, but you came into my life and you made me feel like the one and only. Once upon a time I was so lost and so lonely, but you came into my life and you made me feel like the one and only. So I say, when I'm next to you, I feel lucky. When I'm next to you, I feel like I'm ruling the world. When I'm next to you, I feel lucky. When I'm next to you, I feel like I'm ruling the world. 'Cause it's love, love, love that I need. It's love, love, love you give to me. It's love, love, love that we need. It's love, love, love you give to me. So I say now, when I'm next to you, I feel lucky. When I'm next to you, I feel like I'm ruling the world. When I'm next to you, I feel lucky. When I'm next to you, I feel like I'm ruling the world.
George Wesley here on Music on the Menu on the River with a song called When I'm Next to You, I Feel Lucky. And before that, Old Lion from George Wesley. You know, DC, I think I said 2012 for George's last record. I get mixed up because I interviewed George so many times. The one time I interviewed him, I remember we had lunch at Tommy's Pizza in Kingston.
Mhm.
And I know I interviewed him there. And then I interviewed him at his home studio down in Kingston, not far from there. So they were the last two times that I did newspaper interviews with George. And then the last time I ever interviewed him, again, was right here a year ago when he was on Music on the Menu Live. But those songs, Old Line, definitely the title track from George's last record. We're talking about George Wesley tonight. We're celebrating his music and his life. And I saw a really good article in the Citizen's Voice newspaper earlier this week after George passed, and they interviewed a lot of people from town that had known him, people that played in bands with him, people that worked with him at various levels. Rob Friedman from the River Street Jazz Cafe, where George played many, many shows, basically said that he never, ever saw George on stage not only committed to that night's performance, but every single song. Yeah. Every single song was delivered with passion. And he did that for decades, all over town. I mean, River Street was his sort of home base maybe the last 20 years or so, since Jazz Cafe opened early 90s, mid-90s. Yeah. But before that, it was Market Street Square, Peanuts, Murray's Inn. They were some of his, fine arts fiesta every year. And George's last show, I talked to his son a couple of weeks ago, and George's last show ever was at the end of May, only 2 months ago at the Fine Arts Fiesta. So downtown Wilkes-Barre, center stage, there's something fitting about that, I think, for it to be his final performance, because this community really embraced him and he embraced it. They say, wow, he was doing that a long time. I heard people say that, even before he passed. George Wesley, he's been doing this forever. Yeah, and that is hard. It's hard to do. It's, you have to be good. You want people to keep booking you, clubs. Two things have to happen. You have to be good, and people have to keep coming.
Sure.
That's it. If that happens, you will have a gig. And George always had a gig.
Yeah.
I opened the show with the word greetings before, too, and intentionally as a little tribute to George. That's how he always greeted you. Yeah. Greetings. Even in an email. That's how he would begin whenever he addressed you. So sharing some memories of George Wesley tonight. Still a little shocked, I guess, by this, although we knew he wasn't doing well. This happened so quickly. But we're going to celebrate the music tonight. Here's another one from George. This is probably my all-time favorite George Wesley song. Top 3, anyway. It's called Do What You Like.
you like all night. Do what you like if I make you feel right. Do what you like all night. Do what you like until the broad daylight. Do what you like all night. Do what you like if I make you feel right. Do what you like all night. Do what you like until the broad daylight. Do what you like, me come around dance hall. Do what you like, me come for rock you all. I say do what you like, me come around dance hall. Do what you like, me come for rock you all. I say do what you like all night. Do what you like if I make you feel right. Do what you like all night. Do what you like until the broad daylight. Do what you like all night. Do what you like if I make you feel right. Do what you like all night. Do what you like until the broad daylight. Just do it. One for the money, we say two for the show. Three to get ready, we say four to go. We say 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, come on, everybody, say me just can't wait because it's 9, 10. Let's do it again. Hey, we gotta get together just to rock it as friends. Cause it's the invitation and the dance off tonight. I'll play this reggae music, so do what you like. Do what you like all night. Do what you like, if I make you feel right. Do what you like all night. Do what you like until the broad daylight. Do what you like all night. Do what you like if I make you feel right. Do what you like all night. Do what you like until the broad daylight. Just do one for the money, we say two for the show. Three to get ready, we say four to go. We say 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, come on, everybody, say we just can't wait because it's 9, 10. Let's do it again. Hey, we gotta get together just to rock it as friends. But it's the invitation to the dance off tonight. Come on, play this reggae music, so do what you like. Say, do what you like all night. Do what you like if I make you feel right. Do what you like all night. Do what you like until the broad daylight. Do what you like all night. Do what you like if I make you feel right. Do what you like all night. Do what you like until the broad daylight. Just do it. all you give to me. Sweet children and my family, inspiration all around. For the sun shining on my face, turn a smile from this frown. Oh Lord, I wanna thank you each and every day. Oh Lord, I wanna thank you, singing thanks and praise. Oh Jah, praise Jah. Oh Jah, praise Jah. Well, the night time is falling and the moon is in the sky. Soon the stars will be shining, still we never ask why. Sun comes up, then goes down, world keeps spinning round and round. Sun comes up, then goes down, world keeps spinning round and round. In this beautiful confusion, in this beautiful confusion we call life. Oh Jah, praise Jah Jah. Oh Jah, praise Jah Jah. Thank you for the test and the solutions that you revealed to me. Thank you for the communication and everything your spirit says to me. In the eyes of my brothers and sisters, I can feel your righteous stare. And in this realization, Lord, I know you're everywhere. So I sing thanks and praises. Oh, Jah, praise Jah. 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 So now I'm getting older, my black beard has turned to white, and the wrinkles in my forehead caused by this thing that we call strife. But the lines in my face come from smiles also. No, the trouble has not been too much. Through all of these struggles, Lord, I'm so thankful that you keep in touch. Oh, sing thanks and praises in the morning. Oh, sing thanks and praises all day long. Oh, sing thanks and praises in the evening, through the night until the new day is gone. I sing thanks and praises. Oh, praise Jah. Oh, Jah. 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 Praise Jah. Oh, Jah.
George Wesley here on Music on the Menu on the River with a song called Singing Thanks and Praises. And before that, George Wesley with a song called Do What You Like. His Rastafarian faith was a very big part of George's life, DC. I mean, when you hear that, when you listen to a song like Singing Thanks and Praises, that's so clear.
Yeah.
You know, Jah was how he would refer to the Lord.
Yeah.
Was a very important part of his life, and you saw it in him. You felt it when you were was very, very special. And the thing too about George too is he, I guess he was open to all faiths. But he did a great Christmas song about 20 years ago for a charity album. And I do the Christmas show here once a year, where I play local artists that have recorded Christmas songs. And so we're going to have a little Christmas in July right now for George Wesley. And the story behind this is funny, or at least interesting. George recorded Hark the Herald Angels Sing. George's last name is Wesley. And through ancestry research and so forth, or maybe just through his own family, talking things down the line, he found out that he was related to the Wesley that founded, I guess, the Methodist Church.
Oh, wow.
Back in the 1700s.
Yeah.
And I think the brother of the gentleman that founded the church is the one who wrote the song.
Ah, okay.
So I remember, when I first heard the song, here's got some funny George Wesley stories too. I said, George, you're reggae'd up, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, And he said, well, it's family. I have the right.
It's family, yeah.
And he certainly did. So we're going to play it for you right now. A little Christmas in July from George Wesley.
Sing glory to the newborn King, peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joy for all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies, with angelic voice proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Christ the highest heaven adored, Christ the everlasting Lord. Long desired, behold him come, finding here his humble home. Veiled in flesh the Godhead see, hail the incarnate deity. Pleased as men with men who dwell, Jesus our Emmanuel. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Sing praises to the newborn King. Sing praises to the King of Kings, the Son of Righteousness, the heaven-born Prince of Peace. Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace, hail the Son of Righteousness, light and life to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. Mild he lays his glory by, born that man no more may die, born to raise the sons of earth, born to give them second birth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Praise the King of Kings.
George Wesley here on Music on the Menu on the River with a song called Hark the Herald Angels Sing, written by one of his great-great-grandfathers, uncles. And it was a Wesley that wrote it, and it was related to George. And I told the story before we played it. He made it his own a little bit for a charity album a while back. And Did a great job. We never play any of those songs except for that Sunday before Christmas, but we're making an exception here tonight as we honor George Wesley and we celebrate his music and his spirit. I should mention now, and we'll talk about it later in the show, but the benefit show that was planned for September 2nd at the River Street Jazz Cafe that we had been talking about here on the show for the past few weeks, and we had even begun to promote it on the radio station. I had written about it for the Electric City. That show is still happening. It will be a tribute to George, so we just changed the name. It was a benefit for George Wesley. Now it's a tribute to George Wesley, and the monies that we will make that night will go to George's family to help offset some of the medical expenses that he incurred over the past few months and things like that. So it will still be a very special night of music at River Street on September 2nd. All the bands that originally said they were going to play are still coming. And so we'll be talking about that a lot more over the next month or so and reminding you about it. I'm going to play you a song now that was written by my friend Tom Flannery, who did an album came out a little less than 2 years ago. Came out in the fall of 2014, if I recall. And what Tom did was he wrote a bunch of songs, and then he asked some of his favorite local artists to record them. And so George and Tom were close. We're very close. And Tom was a huge fan of George. He's written some beautiful things about him on his blog over the past few weeks. The column that he wrote this week was outstanding, the blog that he wrote. And George recorded the song, and to Tom it was an incredible gesture because he basically looked up to him so much. And, I was talking to Tom a little bit about it this week. We were texting each other and stuff, and pretty sure that this is the last song that George ever recorded, because this was actually done after George's last album, Old Lion. And so, George may have done some guitar work and some other stuff on a few records more recently, but as far as an officially released George Wesley vocal, we believe this is the last one. And, some of the lyrics are rather fitting for that. It's called Leaving Home.
What is this place? Where have you taken me? Don't smell what I like, don't see what I like to see. Give me my coat and don't forget my hat. There's a chill in the air, my half a deal with that. You can tie me to a flat back chair, lock me in a jail, take away my eyes and the sailboat sail, steal my memories and lose me when I roam. But nothing can compare to leaving home. Get me on a bus, get me on a plane, put me in your car, we can hop a train. We'll dance the way we used to, fumbling in the dark. Maybe they won't find us, but lonely on their marks. You can tie me to a flat back chair, lock me in a jail, take away my eyes and the sailboat sail, steal my memories and lose me when I roam. But nothing can compare to leaving home. No, nothing can compare to leaving home. Simpler with time,
see what's yours, but I want what's mine. But you can tie me to a flat-back chair and lock me in a jail and take away my eyes and the sailboat sails, steal my memories and lose me when I roam. But nothing can compare to leaving home. No, nothing can compare to leaving home. No, nothing can compare to leaving home. Nothing can compare to leaving home. You can drive me into a flatback chair, lock me in a jail, take away my eyes and the sailboat sail, steal my memories and lose me when I'm home. But nothing can compare to leaving home. Nothing can compare to leaving home. I'm going home, I say. Nothing can compare to leaving home. Nothing can compare to leaving home. God loves me. Only thing in this life that I know is true. I don't care what the devil may do to me, 'cause I know God loves me, and He loves you too. Oh, He loves you too. Workers of iniquity, please be done with me. Look closer and you'll see the job is guiding me. I walk the walk I talk. Oh, I'm gonna talk the talk I walk. Until I reach my end, I'll try and help all of my friends. 'Cause I don't care what the devil may do to me, 'cause I know God loves me. Only thing in this life that I know is true. I don't care what the devil may do to me, 'cause I know God loves me, and He loves you too. Oh, He loves you too. Once upon a time, temptations crossed my mind, and I took all of my blessings, threw them away. It was the pleasures of the flesh, oh, they put me to the test. Now I do my best just to reach Mount Zion, 'cause I don't care what the devil may do to me, 'cause I know God loves me. Only thing in this life that I know is true. I don't care what the devil may do to me, 'cause I know God loves me, and He loves you too. Oh, He loves you too. Jah loves me. Only thing in this life that I know is true. I don't care what the devil may do to me, 'cause I know Jah loves me, and He loves you too. Oh, He loves you too. Oh, He loves you too. I know Jah loves you.
George Wesley here on Music on the Menu on the River with a song called I Don't Care, I Know Jah Loves Me. And before that, George Wesley, a song written by Tom Flannery called Leaving Home. This is Music on the Menu on the River. We're here every Sunday night from 9 to 10 o'clock, and we're dedicating tonight's show to the late George Wesley. And I hate saying that, DC. Really do. Thinking about George all week, like so many people have, reading so many stories that people shared on Facebook. One of them, there was newspaper articles too. Weekender did a story in my old paper. I had something in the Electric City a few weeks ago about George. Citizens Voice did a story. I think Times Leader did a story. Giving them all a shout tonight, because anybody that weighed in and gave George the respect he deserves this week, cool with me. And the one story was with one of George's bandmates, and I guess he was kind of new to George's band, and they were doing a bunch of shows, and I guess George wasn't afraid to tell his guys, hey, you need to kick it up here, like if he thought somebody was so nicest guy in the world, gentleman, soft-spoken man. But when it came to his music, he's very serious about, like we said earlier, about 100% not every night, every song every night. And it's hard to find people like that. A lot of people, I think, just, especially if they're doing it for X amount of years, it's another gig tonight, but you never got that feeling when you saw George. One of the funniest stories about George, and George and I laughed about this for a long time. I didn't even know him that well then. I was just getting to know him. It was 1995, and I did a story about one of his records. He had a CD release party at the old Murray's downtown Wilkes-Barre, just about a half a mile off the square. Club's not there anymore, but it was real popular for years. I know a lot of our listeners would remember it. And the band used to play inside, and outside there was this very beautiful courtyard. There was this huge water tower in the middle of the courtyard. It had nothing to do with the club. I guess it was there long before it was turned into a bar. And George's band went on break, and the bass player, pretty sure it was the bass player, climbs the water tower while they're on break. And this thing's high. Yeah. This thing's like, 100 feet high. Yeah. And, the people that ran the club, the security people, I guess, were not amused at this.
Oh, of course.
So they weren't going to let the band go back inside after, they took their little, 20-minute break or whatever. And I guess they, this 21 years ago. I'm pretty sure it was 1995. And they were, eventually, I guess they lobbied themselves to be able to finish the set. But I guess they had to play without him. They wouldn't let that guy back in. And George and I it was a funny story. I remember, laughing with him about it. Because I remember, like I said, I didn't know George that well then.
Yeah.
I think I had done maybe one story about him. We were just getting to know each other. And I reminded it of him years later. He's like, "You were there that night?" I was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Oh man," So it was a funny story.
There's another story you had posted on your Facebook page, a little more poignant story.
Yeah, that happened right here. That happened a year ago here at Breakers. We were doing our music series, and I was the host, and you were Collins that night. Mm-hmm. And I got to be up. I'm the host. I got to get in there and give everybody a warm welcome and introduce the band. And, I'm sure there have been days, DC, where you're on the air mm-hmm. and you have stuff going on in your life that, as soon as you turn off the microphone and you're not on the air, you kind of come down a little bit.
Yeah.
I was having one of those days, my mom was ill. She passed about a year ago now.
Yeah.
I was going through a divorce, which don't talk about here on the show ever, but I will tonight because it relates to the story with George. Mm-hmm. And I was down. I had a lot of bad stuff going on in my life. And so, but I'm excited about having George perform. I love him. I asked him to play, and so I walk in and, hey, George, how are you? And, give him a big, hello. And, I can't wait to get him up on stage and give him a big intro. But during that downtime when I wasn't doing, I guess George noticed that I was not myself.
He noticed, yeah.
Yeah, and because I would just kind of be quiet and a little inward. And he goes, "Hey man, you all right?" That's how
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. And at that point, I'd known him forever. And I told him what was going on, everything. And he looked at me and he goes, "You're a good man. Everything's gonna be all right." And then he just hugged me.
Yeah.
And I don't tell that story because I want people to know how George was, and so many people know him will tell you similar stories. It wasn't like he did that just for me. It was just that was who George Wesley was. He had empathy. He could see somebody wasn't feeling so hot, and that stayed with me for days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, days after that, I remember thinking about that gesture and what he said, and that everything was going to be all right. I'm going to play a song for you now. I went to George's service the other night out in Tunkhannock, viewing service, and saw so many people there from the local scene. I was listening to this song on the way out in the car, a lot of George's music on my drive out to Tunkhannock, and these words really hit me, about not putting things off and living for today. Tomorrow's never guaranteed. Some of the things that George sings about in this one. It's a song called Strong.
We've been on this road for so long, so many miles still left to travel on. Living and learning, always just taking it day by day. But always remember how fast it goes away. So don't put off tomorrow what you do today, 'cause who says tomorrow is coming anyway? The plans that you make are guaranteed to change. Those chances you take, they might even cause you pain. But just keep trying to live your dream. It's not as hard as it seems. Just be strong. You've got to be strong, strong, strong. Got to be strong. Got to be strong, strong, strong to carry on. Got to be strong, strong, strong. Got to be strong. Got to be strong, strong, strong. Oh, I love those people who told you what would be. Well, living their life, it seemed, in the lap of luxury. But when you look closer, it's very plain to see. Well, got the same joy and the same misery. So don't put off tomorrow what you do today, 'cause who says tomorrow is coming anyway? Plans that you make are guaranteed to change, and those chances you take, they might even cause you pain. But just keep trying to live your dream. It's not as hard as it seems. Just be strong. You've got to be strong, strong, strong. Got to be strong. Got to be strong, strong, strong to carry on. Got to be strong, strong, strong. Got to be strong. Got to be strong, strong, strong. Just carry on. this road for so long, with so many miles still left to travel on. Living and learning, or we just taking it day by day? But always remember how fast it goes away. So don't put off tomorrow what you do today, 'cause who says tomorrow is coming anyway? The plans that you make are guaranteed to change, and those chances you take, it might even cause you pain. But just keep trying to live your dream. It's not as hard as it seems. Just be strong. You got to be strong, strong, strong. Got to be strong. Got to be strong, strong, strong to carry on. Got to be strong, strong, strong. Got to be strong. Got to be strong, strong, strong just to carry on.
George Wesley here on Music on the Menu on the River with a song called Strong. The late George Wesley, who we're dedicating tonight's show to. George passed away earlier this week after a relatively short battle with cancer, about 2 months, and he's 62 years old, so far too young. Definitely one of those guys that you could have saw playing into his 80s. I saw Paul McCartney in concert the same day that George died, and I was thinking about George in the show because McCartney's up there at 74, playing 3 hours, and very easy to imagine George having done that, sure. And so it makes it even harder. I was thinking about George too at the McCartney show, DC, because when I did a tribute to John Lennon at the River Street Jazz Cafe on the 25th anniversary of his death back in 2005, and I asked George to close the show. And he did. All these great bands played, but George closed the night out with Instant Karma. And he had all these great musicians up on stage with him singing We All Shine On. And it was really one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And at that time in 2005, George told me that his hair was so long. He wore the hat a lot, and but if you really looked at it, it was really, really long. And at that point, he hadn't cut it in 25 years. He did not cut it until he's never cut it again after John Lennon was murdered. So many stories. He was always there for everybody. So many benefits. Concert for a Cause, played it for so many times. We could go on all night. But really, what I want to say to George Wesley tonight, if you're up there listening, my friend, is thank you. Thank you for everything that you gave us. We love you. We miss you, and we're going to leave everybody tonight with a song by George called "Thank You." Seems fitting.
I wanna thank you for your inspiration, 'cause every time I see you, I get a good vibration. Oh yes I do. I wanna thank you for your inspiration, 'cause every time I see you, I get a good vibration. Life is a struggle, but we never give in. Check it out now. Life is a struggle, but we never give in. Because you count your blessings when you count your friends. They're gonna see you to the very end. I wanna thank you for your inspiration, 'cause every time I see you, I get a good vibration. Oh yes I do. Why don't you give it just one more try? I wanna thank you for your inspiration, 'cause every time I see you, I get a good vibration. Oh yes I do. I wanna thank you for your inspiration, 'cause every time I see you, I get a good vibration. Oh yes I do, yes I do. Goodbye.